Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Her World running on the Steam Deck. Oh, did we unlock any more of these? I think we already saw this one, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Whoopi's World. We walked down the cracked streets and past the collapsed buildings. The smells of concrete and rusty iron, unique to a demolition site, hung in the air. Whatever dingy substance moved with the fog, it clung to my lips. The yard in front of the university hospital, the place I had passed just minutes or hours before, looked fake now, like an apocalyptic scene from a zombie movie. There were no more crowds of people. There was no more loud music coming from the shops, and there was no noise from passing cars. The hospital was silent in the empty fog. I pulled up my phone and snapped a picture, but again it came out as nothing but a black screen. Just to make sure it wasn't a problem with the camera, I took a selfie. There I was, smiling against a black backdrop. Try as I might to alter the pictures, I couldn't bring up the background. Hyuna, who had been walking ahead of me, smiled when she saw what I was doing.
신기해?
Sure is.
오늘 더 이상한 일도 많이 겪을 거야.
What's out there?
네 상식이랑 다른 것들.
Like ghosts?
귀신은 아니야.
Something that wouldn't make sense? I decided that finding out what was out there was more important than anything else, so I pressed on with my questions. Fighters?
응?
Are they strong?
너 정도면 감당할 수 있을 거라 생각해.
I breathed a sigh of relief. Hyuna held out something that looked like a small headset with a microphone attached.
들려?
Wow, now the voices are like extra loud. I swear I turned these down. Yep.
오른쪽에 둥근 거 누르면서 말하면 나한테 들릴 거야.
This was a model I'd never seen before. Just like the clothes, there were a bunch of letters that didn't fit into any grammatical structure I knew. It was just a headset, not connected to any phone, but it worked regardless. Phones didn't really work in this place anyway.
네가 주의할 점이 세 가지가 있어. 첫째, 상식과 다른 부분이 보이면 최대한 빠르게 적응해. 여긴 바깥 세상과 비슷하게 생겼지만 미묘한 부분이 다르거나 비틀려 있어. 바깥과 다른 부분을 찾아냈을 때 받아들이는 속도가 빠를수록 안전해질 거야.
Alright. I thought about students walking through mirrors and waves of black monsters. Those things certainly didn't make sense.
둘째, 혹시 헤드셋이 끊겼다가 다시 연결되면 상대방이 진짜 나라는 사실을 반드시 확인해. 목소리와 말투가 똑같아도 마찬가지야.
What do you mean?
내가 아닌 다른 누군가일 수도 있다는 거야.
But you said there were no ghosts.
귀신은 아니야. 귀신은...
I was fine with things popping out of nowhere. Just please not that.
그리고 마지막.
Hyuna came up to me and put her hand on my shoulder. Are you going to tell me not to get hurt?
그건 당연하고.
Ouch! Hyuna gave my shoulder a hard squeeze. She was stronger than the average man.
위험할 것 같으면 최대한 빠르게 돌아와. 다시 하면 되니까.
Don't worry.
객기 부리지 말란 얘기야, 응?
Hyuna turned back around, her hair fluttering around her. Then she turned her head to look back.
또 물어보고 싶은 건 있어? 뭘 하게 될지는 들어가서 헤드셋으로 들어. 여기서 말하면 들킬 수 있어서.
Then, what should I ask about? Example something that doesn't make sense? Yeah, sure.
그러니까 예를 들면
Fiona went over to a convenience store close by. It was quite old, but the windows and doors were still standing, so we couldn't just walk in. I could see in through the windows.
이런 식으로 안이 보이는 건물은 들어갈 수 있거든?
Fiona pushed the glass door open with a creak. I could see the dusty interior clearly now.
만약 문이 잠겨 있더라도 자물쇠를 따거나 유리를 깨면 돼. 바깥이랑 똑같지?
Right.
하지만
Fiona pointed at the building next door. It looked like a shop, but the sign had broken off and was lying on the ground. Though through the windows, all was black. I approached and had a good look. The door was definitely made out of glass, but it was so dark in there, I couldn't see anything. It was like...
네가 찍은 사진이랑 똑같지?
What exactly is happening in there?
이런 곳은 열려 있더라도 들어갈 수 없어. 유리도 안 깨지고.
I picked up a brick nearby and threw it at the door. Whack! It slammed against the door and split in half. It didn't even leave a scratch on the door. There was one place with a collapsed wall. I tried to get in, but it was filled with nothing but darkness. I couldn't get in.
그렇지?
Do you know exactly why?
계시지 않아.
It's like all those buildings in an RPG that you can't get into. Like only specific ones, have entrances drawn. Thought so. No matter how long you sat and stared at this, coming up with an analysis or explanation was a lot to ask. It was like I had just had to respond to the situations as they...
그냥 법칙처럼 받아들이는 게 대응하기 편해. 안이 보이면 들어갈 수 있고 안이 보이지 않으면 들어갈 수 없는 건. 알겠지?
Anything else I should know? Wouldn't it be better if I'm prepared for more things in advance?
아니,
She shook her head.
저 너머는 또 다를 거거든.
Ah,
벽 하나를 넘으면 그냥 다른 세상인 거야. 하나를 알았으니 다른 것도 뻔하다고 생각했다간 큰 코 다칠걸?
speaking of which, I had to cross over that boundary, like Hyuna said, huh? But everything would be different over there. As long as there were no ghosts, that's all I could ask for. If I can punch it, it's not worth being scared of. How can I know if it's Hyuna on the line?
나만 알고 있을 것 같으면서 네가 정답을 아는 걸 물어보면 돼.
So something like a secret passcode? I say mint chocolate and you say toothpaste?
그런 건 한 번밖에 못 쓰잖아. 여러 개를 준비하면 괜히 헷갈릴 수도 있고. 우리 여러 번 단둘이 만난 사이잖아? 자연스럽게 서로에 대해 알게 된 사항을 물어보는 건 어떨까?
Where we first met, how you treated my wounds, and what we've talked about? Something like that?
괜찮긴 한데 더 확실하고 변하지 않는 게 좋을 것 같지 않아?
Like what? Hyuna flashed me a wide smile, came up close, and stood on her tiptoes.
예를 들면 네 가슴 어느 쪽에 점이 있는지, 등 어디에 흉터가 있는지.
She jabbed one finger into my chest. Why are you using those as examples?
나는 직접 봐서 다 알고 있으니까.
You said you were checking if I was physically capable, but you're really looking at that stuff? She spoke as if the answer was obvious. No, it's just, well, you're not wrong, but... What's the word? It's just... It's like when the character in the webtoon finds out the truth, stands up and declares that their lover was cheating. That kind of feeling? I can remember reading something from a similar genre during a particularly panic-filled exam period. The character shouted, "You want me to tell you just how far I know you got with that guy?" That was a particularly enjoyable exam season.
어? 그렇게 들려? 그렇구나. 좋아. 더 해줘?
Are you drunk? I scratched the back of my head and stepped backward. Hyuna followed and kept speaking.
적어도 이쪽 세계에서 네 몸을 자세히 본 건 내가 유일하잖아. 괜찮을 것 같은데? 만약 한 가지 질문에 대답이 겹치더라도 다른 흉터나 점을 물어보면 되고.
You must have gotten a really close look.
내가 기억력이 좀 좋아.
Since we had no other options, we decided to go with her plan. However, could she really remember my body that well from a single look? She didn't take notes or anything, did she? Ask who's going to catch us.
누구에게 들키냐고?
Hyuna asked with a troubled look on her face. I got a creepy vibe from her. There's no one here but you and me, no? Plus, if someone were to overhear what you're asking me to do, what'll happen?
당연히 지금 이 세계의 사람은 너랑 나밖에 없지.
Hyuna stepped in close. She grabbed hold of me and dragged me under a nearby roof. After we crawled under a collapsed wall, bringing back visions of hide and seek, she put her mouth to my ear and...
하지만 이야기를 듣는 게 꼭 사람만은 아니야.
What?
특히 이런 바깥에서 탈출에 관한 이야기를 하게 되면
Her voice was a whisper. She raised a hand and pointed up at the sky. I was about to lift my head to look up when...
고개 내밀지 마. 그냥 먼 저편을 본다고 생각해.
What do you mean?
하늘을 올려다보는데 고개를 들어올릴 필요는 없어. 위가 막혀있지 않은 한은 반드시 눈에 들어올 정도로 펼쳐져 있으니까.
Then Hyuna stopped looking at me and gazed somewhere far off.
그 사람을 찾았어.
I couldn't hear what else she said. She seemed to be trying to tell me something before trailing off. And suddenly it was night. Huh? Or more, it was like all the light had disappeared at once. The clouds were so thick that they appeared black. No, that wasn't right. Those weren't clouds. An eye. It was an eye. High up in the sky, looking down, so high I couldn't tell how wide it was. A gigantic eye. It was like something as big as this world was pressing its face into one side of the sky, staring down at us. No, it wasn't like the eye was in the sky. More like the entire sky was the eye itself. Its huge pupil blotted out the heavens. What?
난 괜찮으니까 절대로 나오지 마.
Nope. To keep from screaming, I put my left hand in my mouth and bit down. So, did you see the top of the face? Was it connected to anything? I thought of what Hyuna told me that one time. If that thing was connected to the sky and not the ceiling, a door has to be connected to somewhere, but where does a vanishing door lead? It felt like something was going to descend from that thing blocking out the sky and pluck me from where I was standing. Were the clouds in the sky put there to cover up that eye? Then, in the time that stretched on in an eternity, the people that looked as though it made up the whole sky, ever so slowly, it disappeared behind a wall of clouds. The sky returned to its gray hue, packed full of mist and clouds. I finally realized that I hadn't been breathing. Then I felt something blocking my throat and tasted blood. Did I really bite that hard? I forced my immobile limbs to move and crawled out from under the concrete wall. It was the same feeling I had back in my first amateur bout. My hands were cold and clammy. didn't feel like they belonged to me.
괜찮아?
Hyuna held my head in her arms, looking worried. Even her warmth and sweet aroma had a hard time calming me. What did I just see?
미안해. 좀 더 여기 익숙해진 다음에 보여주려고 했는데. 보통 이 시간에 나오진 않거든.
No. As she held me, I managed to breathe normally again. I'm glad I saw that as soon as I did. So the reason you're teaching me a little bit of this and a little bit of that is...
눈치 빨라서 좋네.
So that thing popped out when she revealed too much at once. Hyuna, she was giving me as much information as she could without drawing that thing's gaze. My heart finally stopped beating so quick, but I held on to Hyuna a little longer. Then...
야,
Yes.
좋니?
Yes.
나 허리 아프니까 놓는다.
Okay. Hyuna ran one hand through my hair as if to straighten it out. Then she stood up. I stood up as well. You don't know what that thing is, do you?
나도 저건 몇 번 못 봤어.
Hyuna must have also been sweating back there because she gathered a bunch of her long hair in one hand and wiped the back of her neck. 8 out of 10 men would have to consciously avert their gaze to avoid falling in love at that sight. This job you're having me do, it won't pit me up against that, will it? I tried to crack a joke.
걱정 마. 쟤보단 작으니까.
Hyuna managed a slight smile, but her words weren't all that reassuring. That's all I need to know. We reached the outskirts of the fog-filled city. Here was the thing Hyuna called the boundary. Up on the hospital roof, it had seemed so far away, but after only a short walk, we were here. My sense of distance felt distorted. There was a thicker fog here that looked like a white wall. All the buildings and roads ended there. Hyuna moved quietly in that direction and stuck out her hand. Her hand splayed out as if something was blocking it.
밀어볼래?
Sure. I placed my hand on the back of hers and gave it a small push. It really did feel like there was a wall there. I moved my hand towards the wall. Huh? It sank right through, as if I were sticking my hand into a pool of water. I stuck my hand in and pulled it back out a few times. It didn't actually feel like it was wet, though. However, that answered the question. I was almost certainly going to be able to get through.
안 아파?
Not at all. Hyuna bit her lip, looking as though she was trying to hold something back.
정말로 되는구나. 너만.
Just like you said.
응.
Hyuna stood right there without saying a word, just staring at me for a time. Are you alright? She looked me right in the eye. Suddenly, she had her hands on both my shoulders. I couldn't see her face because her head was lowered.
지금은
Yes, Miss Hyuna?
지금은 아직 돌아갈 수 있어. 엘리베이터로 원래 세계에 돌아가서 아무 일도 없었다는 것처럼 살 수 있어. 하지만 여길 넘어가는 순간 넌 관계자가 되는 거야. 절대로 빠질 수 없어. 내가 안 놓아줄 거고.
The desperation in her voice was stopped by her clenched jaw, like she was fighting to get the words out. When she said that, I remembered all that talk about turning tail. The thought that runt of a girl planted in my mind. You saved my life twice already by my count, so I won't leave without giving this a shot.
그렇게 거창하게 구해준 건 아니야.
Is it really that bad over there?
응,
Any examples you can give?
싸워야 할 거야.
I've got the upper hand.
내가 예상 못한 상황이 생길지도 몰라.
I'm a big boy. I can take care of myself.
넌 여기가 얼마나 위험한지 몰라.
I tapped on the headset Hyuna was holding. You've been preparing for this long enough to get the proper equipment, so why the hesitation? You waited until we reached the end of the world to start really talking. Let's go through first and think more later. Hyuna let out a long sigh.
내가 객기 부리지 말랬지.
If I'm not going to let it get to my head at this age, when should I? With her hand still gripping my shoulders, she brought her face up to mine, looking deadly serious. I flashed a grin back in return. Then she put her forehead to mine, looking peeved. Hyuna stepped back, her face flushed red. Still too early for that?
알겠어. 하자.
Let's. I took the headset from Hyuna and put it on, then I reached out towards the white space. The feeling was a peculiar one, like submerging myself in water. I held my breath for no particular reason and plunged my face in. Then, the moment I opened my eyes, I smelled rain. The peculiar feel of that thick mountain air tickled my cheeks. Heavy rain was falling everywhere I looked. I couldn't see well, so I put a hand to my forehead to shield my eyes through the rain and headed under a nearby tree. I had only passed through what I guess was a wall, but the ruins of the city had given way to a mountain forest. I looked behind me, but only the sight of the misty forest greeted me. There wasn't a trace of the ruined city I had just left. I thought about what Hyuna had said regarding adapting to whatever strange situation occurred. I couldn't be surprised by anything I saw. Miss Hyuna, can you read me? I thought I heard Hyuna say something, but the connection wasn't very good. Was it the rainstorm interfering? Should I try to find a place with better reception? I slowly moved forward through the fog and heavy rain, trampling the tall grass beneath my feet. No matter which way I turned, it was trees, trees, and more trees. The leaves on the ground grew thick and lush, and they did little to protect me from the rain. I climbed a relatively thick-looking tree, tapped my headset a few times, and took a look around. Someone must have come through here before me, because I saw a shining lump of something laying in a flattened patch of grass. A shard. I slipped down the wet branches and landed right in front of the shard. The shiny crystal didn't look much different from the ones I'd picked up at the hospital. Hyuna said she hadn't been able to pick up things like this when she crossed through. How about me, then? I looked closely at the crystal with its flickering light. I reckoned that worrying wouldn't change anything and just reached out for it. I thought I felt someone's presence, so I turned to look. Something red was moving through the haze of the forest. That wasn't a person. Too small. It didn't seem to be approaching, just attentively looking this way. I crossed my arms and quietly watched. Then it disappeared into the forest, as if it was showing me the way. I exhaled and wiped some of the water off my raincoat. I looked down at my hand to see that I had inadvertently grabbed hold of the shard. Well, picking that up sure was easy. Worried for nothing. Just like before, the shard was absorbed into my hand. Then...
야, 아직도 안 들려?
Oh, I can hear you. Hyuna's voice came in through the headset. Had the reception gotten better?
괜찮아? 어디 아픈 곳은 없어?
I'm not hurt, but I'm getting pelted by a whole lot of rain. I should have brought an umbrella, too.
다행이다.
You must have been quite worried, huh?
뭐? 아니 야, 일단 상황부터 보고해.
Hyuna darted straight back to business. It felt strangely nice to know she was worried about me. I explained the situation briefly to her. Rain, mountains, fog. The shard I grabbed with no problem at all. And? In the direction the thing in red headed towards, a large building. I couldn't see it just a bit ago, so had the fog lifted a bit during my explanation? Or was it just because I picked up that shard? After coasting down the mountain, I came to a road big enough for a car to navigate. At its end, there was a line of buildings that looked like some sort of mountain resort for tourists. There was a mix of religious symbols leaning against it. A grass-covered sign was laying where it had fallen to the ground. It was so old that it was hard to make out what was written there, but it seemed to be some sort of prayer retreat. Huh? Haven't I had these exact same thoughts before? Yeah, my dream. I couldn't figure it out, so I chalked it up to deja vu. My head was suddenly throbbing, but I described everything in front of me to Hyuna. It looked like the buildings had been clean and quaint when they were first built, but everything's a wreck. They look abandoned. No signs of life. The only difference between here and the city ruins, the buildings were all covered by trees and moss. A few walls were also covered by ivy. It was a strange sight. It would have looked a little less creepy without the rain. The colorful flowers blooming here and there looked out of place. Should I make my way toward the building? Collect shards as I go?
그 전에 먼저 할 일이 있는데.
Just say the word.
주머니에 무기 같은 거 챙겨놓은 게 있으면 버리고 갈래?
Huh? The headset let out a static squeal. I adjusted the dial. Did I hear wrong?
몰래 연장 챙겨왔지?
How'd you know?
아까 우산 도라고 했잖아.
Had to watch every word I said.
그 주변에서 주워 쓰는 건 괜찮아. 하지만 바깥에서 가지고 들어간 게 있다면 거기 두고 가.
I mean, wouldn't it be better if I had something in case of a fight?
바깥에서 가져온 거면 없는 게 나아.
She was so blunt.
네가 뭘 가지고 갔을 때 상대가 똑같은 걸 들고 나올 가능성이 높아.
Well, wasn't that supposed to...
보면 알 거야. 안 만나는 게 제일 낫겠지만.
Right. I took the dumbbell handle I was carrying out of its hiding place.
역시 뭘 가져왔구나.
Oh, just a dumbbell handle I had at my house.
뭐?
Yeah, it was just the bar you could add plates to. At first glance, it looked like a plastic stick, but inside the plastic was a metal bar. I could wield it with more force than a steel pipe before.
그런 거 막 들고 다니지 마.
You're one to talk. You carry a knife.
아, 이건 다르지.
Different my ass. I hid the dumbbell handle in a patch of grass, being sure to make note of where it was. I had to remember where I hid it so I could come back for it. Well then, I'm going to make my way towards the building, looking for shards.
무리하지 말고 조심해.
Thanks for the advice. Please keep it coming. As the rain continued to fall, I started moving. Do I have quests now? Oh, okay, nope. Alright. Let's see. Ruby's World 4. The more shards I collected, the more the fog lifted, and the clearer I was able to see the building. It was a strange sight to see. I tried to enter a small building nearby, but the door didn't open. I could probably break it down, though.
굳이 그렇게까지는 하지 마. 큰 소리를 냈을 때 뭐가 튀어나올지 모르니까.
Alright.
춥진 않아?
I'm still doing okay. I passed the small building and made my way towards the large one. I went around a corner and moved to pick up another shard when...
왜 그래?
Nothing. I must be seeing things. It was like the shadow of someone bowing or something. Was I seeing things? No, I'm not seeing things. I was sure of it. They were popping up right in front of me. I could see their figures like faint shadows. They looked sort of like they were bowing or praying. They weren't approaching or making any threatening movements, but their numbers kept increasing.
일단 거기까지만 진입해도 충분할 것 같아. 일단 돌아올래? 파편은 가까운 곳에서도 모을 수 있으니까.
In that case, I pressed myself against the wall of the building to get out of the shadowy figure's line of sight. If I followed the street, staying close to the walls, I could get back to the place.
왜 그래?
Someone's coming. I got down low and looked that way. There was a long alleyway between the buildings. From down that way, a small red figure approached. It was so far away I couldn't tell what it was. Maybe a child? No, wait. Was it a person then? Hey, you. What are you doing over there? It ignored my question. The thing in the raincoat drew closer. Stop right there. Can't you hear me? I issued my warning loud enough that the thing could hear me from a distance. The child in the raincoat kept walking as if it couldn't hear a word.
왜 그래? 뭔가 나타났어?
There's someone far away. Getting closer, though. Suddenly, the child took off running. It was unbelievably fast. Far too quick for something of such a small stature. The sound of it splashing in the rain puddles made my blood run cold. Then I saw what it was holding in one hand. A kitchen knife? You, stop right there. Stop, now. Don't come any closer. I said stop. I took a defensive stance. My jaw tensed up as I envisioned what I needed to do. I'm warning you. You really want to meet your maker? I began to think the kid just might. After all, anyone running around with a kitchen knife was clearly looking for trouble. Then, when I got close enough that we could see each other's faces, I saw it. What? Why is it so huge? Its pounding footsteps suddenly started shaking the ground. The figure in the red raincoat had been so far away. It was getting bigger, but it was still so far away. I hadn't noticed since the walls around it were so high. If my eyes weren't playing tricks on me, the figure in the red raincoat stood head and shoulders over any man.
무슨 일이야? 괜찮아?
It's a giant. Maybe I'm being attacked by a giant monster.
뭐?
My eyes landed on the face inside the red raincoat, ever approaching. Inside that red hood, within that darkness, there was nothing.
지금 내 말 들려?
Every time the ground shook, the headset was filled with static. Hyunan's voice grew so distorted that I couldn't make out what she was saying.
어디 갔었어? 놀아준다고 해놓고.
I heard the girl speak. Oh, I pressed the buttons on the side of the headset again and again as I put some distance between me and that thing. I could feel its footsteps shake the ground.
돌자.
That girl's creepy voice sounded like it was coming directly above me. I tried to enter the building next to me, but it must have been locked because the door didn't budge. I gave a few hard kicks, but it was no use. Maybe a window. Right when I realized there were none, the giant figure in its red raincoat was standing right behind me.
이번엔 뭐하고 놀 건지. 아까 말했지?
No. I picked up a board that was lying on the ground next to me. I broke it off to where it was just the right length, with a nice sharp tip. Child or no child, given the size of the thing, I decided to put away all moral qualms about using weapons against people. The height difference was one thing, but this one was absolutely terrifying, plus the thing was holding a knife. The girl lifted up the kitchen knife, pointing it in my direction. It was like the roof of a building was coming down on top of me. It looked like she was coming straight for me. Without another moment's delay, I lifted the plank, stood square against the girl with the knife, and...
정신 차려!
It's Hyuna? Hyuna's voice came through the headset. The kitchen knife came right at my face, then it stopped.
눈앞에 있는 게 뭐야? 자세히 봐!
I told you, it's a
괴물이 아니야.
What do you mean? I wiped the rain away from my face with one hand. The giant in front of me was a blur.
3m는커녕 너보다 훨씬 작을 거고 얼굴이 없는 게 아니라 그냥 여자아이의 얼굴이 있겠지. 그 애의 비옷을 걷어봐.
What in the world are you... Suddenly I remembered what Hyuna had told me. If you see something that doesn't make sense, you have to accept it as quickly as you can.
정신 똑바로 차려. 무기를 들었다면 일단 내려놔. 자세히 봐. 지금은 비가 오잖아. 그 애가 내밀고 있는 건 정말로 시칼이야?
I stuck my left arm in my... stuck my left arm in my mouth and bit down hard enough to draw blood again. I felt my mind begin to clear. Then... Right there in front of me, a girl who barely came up to my waist. She was on her tiptoes, holding her umbrella out to me. The giant from before was nowhere to be seen. What on? The wood plank fell from my hand. I flopped down to the wet ground. How did you know all that? I muttered the words into the headset, mind vacant.
거긴 그런 세계야. 이렇게 무서웠다고 확신해버리면 그렇게 인식되어 버리곤 해. 내가...
Something about what Hyuna had said felt wrong, so I was about to repeat my question. But then the headset was filled with static again and I couldn't hear her voice. I wiped the rain from my face once more.
비 맞지 마. 감기 걸려.
The girl stepped forward. Then she held the umbrella over my head. That's right, but it's a kid-sized umbrella. With a squeak, the girl pushed the front door open with ease. That door hadn't moved when I tried to open it. I didn't have the energy to point that out, so I brushed the water off my raincoat and slid it off. It was surprisingly dry, except for my shoes and the seat of my pants, which had touched the ground when I sat down. The headset had lost all reception. I walked back and forth, in and out of the building, but I couldn't get a signal. Miss Hyuna, why'd you have to buy this stupid knockoff?
그거
Yeah? The girl had been watching me smack the headset.
나랑 있으면 안 들릴 거야.
I didn't follow. Why not?
내 잘못 아냐. 잊고 있는 건 그쪽이니까.
Then what did I forget?
오빠 말하는 거 아닌데?
Holding a conversation with this kid, it was like my brain was going to fry if I didn't get a hold of myself. I was having a hard time figuring out what this kid was saying, let alone whether it was human or not. Was it my fault for taking her seriously? Honestly, I was still pretty shook up.
저기.
Hmm?
빨리 더 놀자.
I couldn't tell if she knew how scared I was, but she came up to me and started begging me to play with her regardless. Occasionally, her face went dark again.
어서.
She pulled out the hem of my clothes before running off alone and spinning in circles. She didn't think to take off her boots or raincoat before darting around the place. The lobby was very large, done up in wood. Grass and moss covered most of the surfaces, but you could still see that the place had been decorated to be quite fancy. There were pictures ripped and torn so that you couldn't recognize faces anymore, and the religious symbols mixed into random sentences here and there. The place smelled of grass and wood. The hints of moss I could smell made me feel strangely calm. The girl in the raincoat came back up to me and started tugging hard on my shirt.
놀자.
Play what?
아까 말했잖아.
You didn't say anything. The girl's face was a blank slate. I couldn't see, but I could see that she took offense to that. By the way, who are you? Where are your parents? I wanted to ask, are you human? But I stifled the urge. If she was just pretending to be a person and thought I'd caught her in the act, she could get violent. Her expression changed to look much more human.
그것도 아까 가르쳐줬는데. IQ 몇이야?
Courageous little squirt. I squatted down to her level. Wow, I really couldn't tell you. So, how about you refresh my memory?
우비.
Right, but your name?
우비야.
Did your mom name you that?
아니, 엄마는 옷을 지어주셨어.
Underwear?
한복.
Right. Ubi's hollow laugh stood in contrast with the lively smile on her face. I remember how giant she had looked before and shuddered. Was that all just my mind playing tricks on me? The headset was still giving me nothing but static. I couldn't get any orders from Hyuna, so I had to let my own judgment carry me forward. I didn't need to rush back or anything, did I? I patted Wooby's head a few times, and then she resumed pulling at the hem of my shirt.
그럼 놀자.
Could you open all those doors for me first? I don't really know how.
난 열 줄 아는데.
Show me.
그럼 인형 찾기 할 거야?
A doll?
아까 그거 하기로 했잖아.
When did we agree on that?
찾기로 했어. 100초 만에.
I'll try to find it, so would you please open the doors? Wooby darted around, opening up all the doors. Shards were shining everywhere I looked. The place had the highest concentration of shards yet. I ignored Wooby and gathered up the shards. Should I pretend to be looking for the doll, and just gather these instead? The sound of Wooby's footsteps as she ran around throwing open doors suddenly stopped. When I turned to look back, she was staring at me with a blank expression on her face. What is it? Creak, creak, Wooby slowly approached.
그거 갖다 주지 말랬잖아.
Huh? Wooby grabbed my wrist, then... Huh? She sucked a bunch of glowing shards from my arm. Hey, what do you think? I shook her arm off and stepped back. What was that? Did she steal all my shards? Is that even possible? Wooby's chest glowed for a moment before the light faded. She stared at me with those empty eyes of her. Hey. Give them back.
싫어.
Now.
싫어.
Do you even know what they are?
이거 중요해?
Very.
그래서 안 놀아주는 거야?
I am playing with you.
인형 찾는 척하면서 이거 모으려고 했잖아.
How could you tell?
엄마가 어른 쉽게 믿지 말랬어.
She'd be the death of me. Did you really think that this would be fun with you forcing me to play with you?
응. 엄청.
I walked towards Wooby. Since she stole them from me, there was probably a way to steal them back. I grabbed hold of Wooby. grabbed.
나랑 노는 거 그렇게 싫어? 그럼 샌다.
Be my guest. I decided to play along. The headset was dead weight anyway, so I couldn't get directions from Hyuna. It would probably be better to collect some more shards while I looked around. Ruby wasn't much of a threat at the moment, and how well could she have hidden that thing anyway? If I had 100 seconds, then
100, 92, 88, 70.
less time than I thought. I rummaged around the lobby in a hurry. I had to look at the wooden walls. Despite the top-notch materials they'd used, there were places where the nails had been uniformly hammered in, and other parts that were a mess. One broken frame had fallen to the floor. The world is deceiving you. Only Father Judah can save you. It was hard to make out anything after that.
24, 15, 9, 7.
A bunch of old battered cushions were piled up in one corner. Had a bunch of people gathered around the floor, sitting on those cushions. A huge cross had fallen onto the stage. There was an Eastern-style place for worship and a bunch of broken candlesticks. What a haphazard assortment of objects this building had. It was supposed to be a religious establishment. Or if this was supposed to be a religious establishment, the layout and materials certainly didn't make any sense to me. There was no consistency.
8, 4, 3.
What was going to happen if I couldn't find that thing in time? I noticed a large number of shards next to the eastern-looking altar. Perhaps
2, 1. 반에,
a half?
반에, 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 반에.
So, no zero yet. I ignored Wooby and flipped the altar over. A statue came rolling out of it, something so odd that it made you question the sanity of its creator. It looked like a random mix of a number of religious leaders. Is this what you were looking for? I handed it to Wooby. Wooby's expression turned cold.
왜 찾았어?
You told me to.
너 때문에 졌잖아.
Yep, you lose, and I win. Now give me back the shards. Wooby pouted for a bit. Then she took her doll. She sprawled out, face down, next to my feet. She covered her head with the hood of her raincoat. What are you doing?
콩벌레. 지면 콩벌레 해야 돼.
Alright, why don't we stop it there? This is audap. You've been watching Her World running on the Steam Deck. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.